Diego Maradona is arguably the greatest footballer who ever lived. As a manager, he stood on the touchline and watched his Argentina side get taken apart 4-0 at a World Cup, completely unable to fix it. And he is not the exception. He is the rule. Here is the strange pattern nobody wants to say out loud. The better you were as a player, the worse your odds of becoming a great manager. Look at the men who actually win the biggest trophies from the dugout. Arrigo Sacchi was a shoe salesman who never played professional football at any serious level, yet he built the AC Milan side of the late 1980s, widely called one of the greatest club teams in history, and won back-to-back European Cups with it. Jose Mourinho was a mediocre player who barely made a career of it. Meanwhile, the true legends, the ones who bent the game to their will on the pitch, so often struggle the moment they step off it. Why would the greatest players so frequently make the worst managers? The answer starts with a single uncomfortable idea. Being brilliant at something and being able to teach it are two completely different skills. In fact, they can actively work against each other. Think about what made someone like Maradona great. He did things on instinct. He didn't think his way through a defence, he felt it. The ball arrived, and before his conscious mind caught up, he had already beaten 3 players. That instinct is a gift, but it is also a trap, because he could never fully explain how he did it. If you ask a genius how they think, they often have no idea. It just happens. Sacchi, the manager who never played, put it more sharply than anyone. He said you don't need to have been a horse to be a jockey. The player who struggled, on the other hand, was forced to study. If the game never came naturally to you, you survived by understanding it. You learned exactly why a striker drifted to the back post. You memorised the spacing, the timing, the triggers, because you had no instinct to fall back on. You became a student of the game out of pure necessity. And being a student is the entire job of a manager. There is a name for this problem, and it reaches far beyond football. Psychologists call it the curse of knowledge. Once you know something deeply and instinctively, you lose the ability to imagine not knowing it. A world-class player literally cannot understand why an average professional can't do what they find easy. To them it is obvious. Just receive the ball, turn, and score. But it was never obvious. It was a superpower they were born with, and they mistook it for something anyone should be able to do. Now put that person in charge of 25 professional players, most of whom will never be even a fraction as talented as they were. He demands things his players simply cannot produce. He can't explain the fix, because for him there was never a fix, it was just natural. The gap between his brain and theirs becomes a canyon, and the team falls apart. You do not have to look far to see it. Take Gary Neville. As a player, one of the most decorated English defenders of all time, 8 Premier League titles, 2 Champions Leagues. As a manager, he lasted just 4 months. Valencia handed him the job with no managerial experience and no fluency in Spanish. He waited 9 league games just to win 1, was humiliated 7-0 by Barcelona in a cup semi-final, and was sacked before the season ended. He never managed again. One of the sharpest analytical minds in football could not translate it to the training ground. But this is not a hard law, it is a tendency, and the exceptions tell you exactly what actually matters. Take Steven Gerrard. As a player, a Liverpool legend and one of the greatest midfielders of his generation, the man who dragged his club to a Champions League title almost single-handedly. As a manager, his story is genuinely mixed, and that mix is the whole point. At Rangers he was excellent, leading them to their first league title in 10 years, ending Celtic's dominance. But when he stepped up to the Premier League with Aston Villa, the results unravelled, and he was sacked inside a year with the club near the bottom. The pattern is revealing. Gerrard could win where structure and belief were enough. He struggled where the very best opposition managers were outthinking him week after week. The talent got him the job. The teaching is what the job actually demanded. Now compare that to Pep Guardiola. He was a very good player, though never a superstar in the Maradona sense. But that isn't why he succeeded. He succeeded because even while playing, he behaved like a coach. He sought out mentors obsessively. He interrogated the sport constantly, asking why, always why. He was, in his heart, a student who happened to also play. Zinedine Zidane is a similar story. A genuine great as a player, and a serial winner as a coach, precisely because he approached management with humility, rather than assuming his talent would simply transfer. So the real dividing line was never talent, it was mindset. The question is not, how good were you? The question is, did you study the game, or did the game simply happen to you? This is why so many elite managers share a curious biography. They were the fringe players. The ones warming the bench, whose careers stalled early through injury or limitation, and who spent those idle years watching, thinking, and asking questions the stars never had to ask. Their weakness as players became their entire education as coaches. They learned the map because they could never rely on the compass. And it reframes something you have probably felt watching football your whole life. When a beloved club legend gets appointed manager, and the fans celebrate, and then the season slowly falls apart, it is not because the legend forgot football. It is because the very thing that made them a legend, that untranslatable instinct, is the one thing they can never hand to anyone else. There is a beautiful irony hidden in all of this. The players we worship for making the impossible look easy are cursed by exactly that gift. Because they made it look easy, they never learned to teach it hard. And the quiet, forgotten players, the ones who had to grind and study just to keep up, walked away with the one skill that actually wins titles from the touchline: understanding. So the next time a footballing god takes a manager's job and the whole world expects magic, remember Maradona on that touchline, watching the goals fly in. A genius who could do everything except explain how. The best players don't make the worst managers because they lost their talent. They make the worst managers because their talent was never something they could give away.